Oh, it's live.
Oh, we're live. Yay.
All right, guys, we're live. Already?
Yeah.
All right, it is 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. All members are present. We stand for the pledge and
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, thank you for just allowing us to get here tonight and join and meet and discuss this much needed business for the city of Bartlett and the citizens of Bartlett. And Father, just be with Adrian as he explains this to us tonight, and just be with every one of us to help us understand it and make it make sense. So just ask that you be with each and every one of us and lead us, guide us, and direct us. In the name we pray. Amen. And there was no citizens communication, no boards or commissions reports. We have a consent agenda, monthly department reports, and approved minutes for the following meetings: 8/5/24 special meeting, 8/12/24 regular meeting, and 8/26/2024 regular meeting. You want to pull out item A?
Yeah.
And speak on that real fast.
I do.
So there's a little explanation there.
Hey everyone. Just as an update to a very long conversation that we've had in the city of Bartlett over the past few years, we have some great news. We scored place 7 in the Economically Distressed Areas Program under the Texas Water Development Board. What we applied for was a loan for a wastewater treatment plant. We scored really high up there, and we were the most expensive project on the top of the list. Funding is almost guaranteed as long as we meet a few critical requirements. Before I get to that, the EDAP, the Economically Distressed Areas Program, you see this row 7 on the screen. Get this here. That's a $60 million loan, and we scored on the highest rating. So that'd be about a 30%. So we're looking at about a 70% forgiveness on this project. So that'll mean about a $12 million forgiveness. It's not guaranteed. We expect contracts to get released on first week of December or so. There are some hurdles left. The one we got to address as soon as possible is this program. In order to receive funding, you need to get the counties or county that your community lives in to approve a new set of ordinances or orders regulating subdivision controls. After talking with the mayor, it seems like we have some decent support in Williamson County. I'm pending a report from our engineering group to give me the pros and cons of these changed orders for the counties and subdivision regulations. Once I have that report complete, I'll be trying to coordinate with Bell County and see if we can get support on their amendment of their orders to reflect the state's requirements. If we get those ordinances approved by the counties, both Williamson and Bell, then our shot at this $60 million loan is almost clear. But we'll have more answers soon. But at least this is one of the biggest hurdles that we've jumped through in the past few years and related to wastewater treatment plant redevelopment. This would be for a mechanical sewer plant. which would be expandable and will lead to the future's growth of the city and its population and community. We can only hope that the county is kind enough to agree to those changes. If they do, then we're in a very good track. We're looking about in the near immediate future, 5 to 10 years, we're looking maybe 500 to 1,000 homes, maybe, given the capacity that this would bring. Right now, our limitation in development is we have a lot of storage for water. We have a decent fluff for providing water services, but when it comes to sewer services, we don't have the means for it. We're very limited, we're capped. Every day we have a serious TCEQ violation. Thankfully, the city has reached an agreement to hold off on those violations at this time, given our inability to create our own treatment plant. Part of the reason we scored so well in this is because we are an economically distressed area and related to its economy. And secondly, the health necessity for a current and active sewer plant that could hold future development. But for now, we can at least with a small little celebration that we got 7th place. So great job, you guys. I'm sure the
Great
future.
job being terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason we qualified so high is because our sewer system, not sewer, well,
For sure, plan.
sewer plant is in pretty bad shape. And our only fix is to replace it.
That's right.
Basically, that's our agreement with TCEQ. Sorry? Shut up.
The design was popular in the 80s.
So the problem is it's not deep enough. It's never been sludged.
Yeah.
You know, dredged out the sludge. It's never, I mean, so it started off, not deep enough. It started off with all kinds of issues. And maybe that's how it was designed back when it was put in. But nowadays, it needs to be about twice as deep as what we've currently got. And just to have it sludged out is a couple $1 million project. But when TCEQ took the NOV on the city, way before I was mayor, that's how long it's been going on. It's been going on 6 or 8 years. And the solution at that time, the agreement with the city and TCEQ was to replace the plant with the modern day
Mechanical sewer plants,
sewer plant.
which are basically huge vats that hold the gray water. And then you could just keep on adding these vats. But right now, we have these huge trenches in the ground that we jet out into a creek. But with these mechanical plants, you could just, with future development coming in, it's relatively a lot more inexpensive to create a vat than trenching a giant pool of waste.
So you'll see, we've had multiple discussions for the last 2 to 3 years, and here recently we've had with 3 different developers. And our biggest hurdle for the city is we have no sewer LUEs. I mean, we probably give up 125 to 150 LUEs on sewer, and then we're completely shut down. But not a whole lot of developers want to come here and build 100 homes. They want to build 500 or 600 homes because density is money. You know what I mean? And so, without the sewer plant, our development limitations are the sewer plant. Like you're saying, on drinking water, we're pretty decent. We can always improve on drinking water, on our LUE availability. But the big main snag is this, and you'll see once we start getting into the budget talk here in a minute. The fix for a lot of our financial issues is adding more customers. And so without the sewer plant, you can't really add a whole lot of more customers. And so it's something that's got to happen, because, I mean, if the sewer plant was already built and active, we'd probably be, having 1,300 homes built in Bartlett right now under construction, over the last couple of years. Seriously, honestly. That's been the big hole. And so, like you're saying, this was the backup plan to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant, which we also scored 29 on. And that's the one with the $10 million loan forgiveness. So they turned in the same exact project for both different funding, the CWSRF and the EDAP. And the EDAP was the backup plan to the CWSRF. Because remember last time we scored 24 on the CWSRF, then they ran out of money before we got those. Even though they promised us $10 million, they ran out of money. We wound up with $1 million, which we're doing the design and planning on. So this one is the same exact project. Through kind of a Hail Mary in there as backup plan, and we actually scored number 7, which all of the projects in front of us don't total up anywhere near with the allotted money they have to spend for the funding. So it's almost a slam dunk. We gotta get both counties. We got twice the work to do because both counties have to agree to amend their subdivision ordinances with some minor language changes in order for us to qualify. And then the city has to do the same, which we'll do whatever we can
Just get
to get $12 million.
Sorry.
The entire county.
It's just for us, right?
Entire county.
Entirely.
So but I mean, I ran into Russ Bowles Saturday night in Gilderville, kind of dropped it in both, on them. And they actually said it's something they've already been working on. And I guess so. I'm guessing we're not the only county the city coming to them saying we need some amendments. And so that's good news on the Williams County side. But we gotta do the same talk over on the Bell County side and see
What are the big cities in Bell County?
Belton, Temple, Killeen, Parker Heights.
Because what might be the case is that this program has been around for some time. They may have already adopted this, given that there's larger municipalities who may have at some point been in the same shoes as Bartlett, needing this kind of program. And that's part of the reason why Williamson County is already on top of it, is because they have Georgetown, they have Round Rock, parts of Austin. And it wouldn't surprise me if those cities didn't also try to tap into these requirements to get this money.
So honestly, we would probably, as a city, rather go the EDAP funding route because we don't think, nowhere in any of the language does it say anything about a cap. It just says 70-30 match. And so 70% of 16 million is greater than 10 million, where the cap is on the other side. And we also scored number 7. So 29th really kind of concerns us, scoring 29th on the CWSRF because they ran out of money last time at 20, way before 24. And so this one looks a lot more attractive to us as a city.
So
So here's hoping, that we can meet with the county in the next couple of days and get some sort of changing going on.
How old is this price? This will help build, is there inflation built in?
They turn those prices in March. Yes, sir. That's when it's going to be somewhere around there. And plus that 16 million right there, we've already taken 1,750,000 out of it because of the design stage, because that's built into that 16 million. And then the Edie Street lift station improvements is also in that 16 million, which the prison is doing. And so there may be there may be some additional things that need to be done over there. We'll see what it looks like after they're done, but there's going to be big parts done. So
So they did get it done. It's finished or just in the work?
I'd have to look up. I need to look, see if the electrical part is finished. Yeah. That even.
And that was something that was another one of those, it has to be.
Oh, yeah. So, and then this also has like 21 manhole replacements and 10,000 some odd linear feet of clay pipe replacement or pipe replacement. So it's not.
Well, that's really it on that, unless there's any questions from the rest of the council.
So that's just kind of updates on on the EDAP. I mean, and then also if you look down on this, there's also two other Bartlett projects on here. Items 12 and 13. Bartlett wastewater system improvements and Bartlett system improvements, one for 1.5 and one for 1 million. So I think those were also some just throw them out there, see what sticks kind of things. But obviously, plenty of improvements to do on both water and wastewater.
Most of our focus is about financing is that $16 million
But
project.
Bartlett's just in a crazy situation because we have the two counties, and both counties have to agree now on the wastewater plant, because it serves both Bell and Williamson County customers. But if we can only get one county or the other to agree to the changes, then these other two funds down here, we can find projects in that one county. So
It's a big deal.
yeah,
It's a big deal to the counties as well, getting a project like this. So it won't be something they just rush aside.
Right.
and honestly, I got the email on the changes that need to happen. Were you flipped on?
Yeah.
You got that Friday night? They're pretty minor. It's just word.
But I don't know what impacts it would have to each county. Whoever county has their own.
I don't know what amended notes little in those sections does to other sections. You know,
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at.
yeah. So we'll see. All we can do is ask. But
Start with counties. That's it.
What's the timeline when you expect to know whether that's going to be approved or not? Are we interested?
We're talking about the changes in the orders, or you're talking about the agreement?
We're changing the orders have to happen first because of the agreement, correct?
We expect to have the agreement on December 1st around those dates. Now, whether they expect to have counties to, if their changing of the orders is the trigger to funding, or if they won't give you the agreement unless you have those changes made. We don't know that yet. Any other questions, guys?
so that's all your consent agenda, all your department reports, and everything in there. I'll go down to G real fast to police. Chief, he's with the kids tonight, so he wasn't able to get here. But we hired a new police officer. After our last meeting, we had an interview the next day, and we hired him on the spot and started the next day. So we got super nice guy. Got a great wife and kids, and they were all here for the swearing in that night. The judge just happened to be here, and so they've been out running a lot of traffic. He's having anytime you hire a new guy like that, you buddy him up so they get to know the citizens, the city, and ins and outs and everything. So him and Swacky have been working together, and they've been doing really good work. Shane Keeson. You can't miss him. Big guy. Just a big old dude. I mean, he's super nice guy. I like him. So.
Well, some people do get that wreck over here.
Yeah.
Shane Keeson.
Yeah, they're doing good. But that's all I got. We just need a motion to approve the consent.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Ms. Vicky has made a motion with a Jackie second. All in favor? All right. No public hearings, right? No public hearings. And so we'll move on to the regular agenda items. Welcome, by the way.
Glad to be here with all of our veterans. Yeah, I know it's tough. It's all tough. And from home usually.
Item
Did we
one.
approve the minutes?
Yes, sir. It's all consent agenda, all in one motion.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I see that here.
Item number 1, discuss, review, take any necessary action to adopt a resolution.
Thanks. That's me.
We got loose mice up here. Item 1, discuss, review, and take any necessary action to adopt a resolution recognizing the memorandum of understanding for conditional pre-development, including the reimbursement of professional services outlined in the agreement, and to authorize the mayor or city administrator to sign all necessary agreements related to the MOU.
Right, I'll speak to that. So, tapping into the conversation we just had, if we're going to have this wastewater deal happen, it's going to require a lot of professional services from the city. MRB and our city attorneys are both familiar with the structure of the city, its ordinances, its necessities. It's going to be difficult to find an outside firm that can tell you an answer that only the city knows in-house. Now, since MRB, our engineering firm, and Mesher Fort and other professionals that support the city's administration are typically 90% of the time our consultants, their contractors. They charge us for the services that they perform for the city. Now, we'll have developers come into the city, ask us questions. They may be interested in developing a neighborhood. That's going to require professional services. So what this does is a pre-agreement to the developers who may approach the city, and that they agree to pay for the expenses of using our consultants for their benefit. The idea here is that residents of the city shouldn't pay for a private interest or the benefit of a private interest. At the end of the day, the developers are going to make their money. If they're serious enough, they'll give us a deposit for professional services, sign the agreement, and agree to pay all future expenses related to the city's services. What we'll be doing is recognizing this agreement. It's a preset for basically a form that we hand to developers. They read it, they agree or not. If they don't agree, then they can walk. They can talk to me all day if they want, but they're looking for serious engineering and cross evaluations, and maybe a separate agreement to be developed and conjured by our city attorney. That should come to the expense of those third parties. So recognizing this form, it would authorize the mayor or myself to be signatories of this. This shouldn't cost the city anything. If anything, the city will have a retainer of $10,000 every time we initiate one of these contracts. It's what some might call a pre-development agreement, getting them to meet city council and the like, and it should save the city money moving forward. This past fiscal year, as seen in the budget, we did spend about $50,000 in professional services that we may have never seen the direct benefit of. And so, from protecting us in the future, having a resolution and an approved agreement template, that should squash that issue moving forward. So if there's any questions about the resolution and agreement, I'd recommend that we accept both of these items tonight so that we can start distributing these when the time comes.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So this is a great idea. And from a citizen's perspective, it seems like this is something that's kind of brewed to the top. There must be some developers knocking on the door. So it leaves me with two questions. One is who's knocking? And two is if the city's going to be earning this, is that something that's going to be reported back?
Yeah, so first off, we've had a few developers come and talk to the city, and one of them is looking to be pretty serious, and he wants to see if we can get something like this in place, a pre-agreement to at least the city agreed to release our professional services to talk to their professional team. They are looking to potentially creating development in the outskirts of town. So there is a demand for it. There's a lot of open land, residential.
Residential.
So there's a lot of open land in town. We have enough water capacity. We were talking about it just now, the limitation of sewer capacity. Some developers may just create their own sewer services, creating a package plant on site or septic system. However, it still is a requirement from the city to inspect those engineering designs and proposals of land use, at least in the general region of the city. And so your second question was, I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Well, this is a great revenue source, so is this something that's gonna be reported back?
Right. So
This is awesome.
the $10,000 deposit, in previous conversations, we talked about having an accountant in town to be in our personnel, not a consultant, but an employee to manage our books more effectively with typical government standards, practices, GSFAA, something like that. And that would just be a retainer in there.
It's
Redevelopment
basically,
services.
it's not really a revenue source. It's more of a, the developers paying for, developers paying for the legal fees and the engineering fees that the city would incur during their talks and back and forth. So
Structured correctly, it could be though, because as Ronald Reagan comes through and some of these other roads that are coming through Walmart, you're gonna have developers knocking left, right, and center. So you could structure this in such a way that there's evaluation fees and that you could set this up to not only be an offset by the revenue stream. So that's why I asked how many people are knocking. So it shouldn't just be an offset, it should be a revenue stream.
it's just primarily to, there is a utility feasibility study rate that the city does charge for some stuff. But then this is also just for like those developers that are coming to the city, because once they come to the city, we start talking, and then we have to get city engineers involved, and the city incurs a bill, which adds up rather quickly. And then same thing with our city attorney or development, or not development attorney, but what is she? Maybe we have to go.
Yeah.
But our city attorney that handles the development, those fees are astronomical. They add up really fast. And so this way, the developer's picking up the tab on that rather than the citizens of Bartlett.
There also is a limitation that could be in conflict with a very recent legislative change in the last May, where cities cannot profit on professional services related to development. We actually just had this conversation last regular city council meeting, more about permitting. However, I didn't really get to the subject that this also applies to development services. Cities are being barred by the state to not profit from permits and development services. We can only charge for the actual costs incurred for the evaluation. And so there's a potential where if we do try to add a 10% consultation fee, that might be in contradiction of that new House bill that passed in the last legislative session. That's a good question. Frankly, if it was 2 years ago, we may reconsider disagreeing. Is there any other questions, Council?
But yeah, there is multiple developers in strong talks with the city. And so,
But we're kind of in a holding till the sewer gets.
but not
I mean,
necessarily,
we
because
have some, we have some, that, you know.
What- I'll just say two of the developers are looking at their own sewer, on-site sewer solutions. And so whether it's septic, where they're doing smaller ranchette style properties, less dense ranchette style, which is 1 acre or whatever it is, whatever the county's requirement is for a septic system, or whether it's they're on-site privately owned package plant, which they would have to have permitted through TCEQ. I know one developer is going to be applying for that application.
Is that what's coming?
I haven't heard anything about tiny homes.
Yeah, they're right there, now, so it's coming up to Gerald. That's over there for
Tiny homes. I haven't heard anything about tiny homes. I like tiny homes a little
I
bit.
do too, I think they're cute.
I want to try.
Huh?
Yeah, Bryce, Bryce will buy a
Yeah.
full-size house.
Exactly.
Tiny home would be cool, though. I like that. Little tiny home village. There's a really cool one going in Taylor right now. They're smaller townhomes. They're not tiny homes, but they're.
So, is this resolution?
Let's make the resolution number, today's date, and then 01, so 09 20 24 01. Does that sound about right?
It
Or do you have-
personally, I have a preference in conjunction with our director retention policies. It should be 2024-09-09.
So I had the 2024 backwards. All right.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Good, 2024.
I was so close.
So,
So close.
could we make this to where it's the city administrator and the mayor?
Yes, it's in the agenda,
So read this,
right?
You gotta read this whole.
I think you could read the motion or the item on the agenda. Motion to recognize or adopt the resolution recognizing such and such, or just a new motion to recognize item 1 on the agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt a resolution recognizing the memorandum of understanding for conditional pre-development, including the reimbursement of professional services as outlined in the agreement to authorize the mayor and city administrator sign all necessary agreements related to the MOU.
So Ms. Jackie's got a motion on the table for resolution number 2024090901. With a Shelton second. All in favor? Carries 4-5. Good. Item number 2, discuss, review, take any necessary action regarding utility collections in relation to 12.01.00.
So on this one, I don't expect to reach a final conclusion today. It's to begin a discussion on our utility connections. In your agenda packet, you'll find a sheet that describes how many accounts or how much revenue we're behind on collections. There you go. Can everybody see the screen? So this 30 days past due is, you might expect to be normal. That's you're late on 1 month of your utilities. All these other numbers, about half of them, add up to utility accounts that are past due but still receiving services. City, yeah. At least according to the data entry that we have in our ledger program, FundView. FundView is great. It has a lot of ways to collect information. It just needs to be entered correctly and appropriately.
At $81,000 is what the government's owed us.
Yes, that's how much we're behind on.
That's the money we were talking about, police officer, we don't have to cut. That's money that's owed to us.
In the month of October, we'll be doing a serious examination of our utility program that we run in the city. It's not just the collections, it's not just what happens in the main office, it's about the rounds that we do, it's about the rates that we're applying, it's about what's entered, what data is entered for every account. Ordinance does spell out a lot of basics, as Shelton and I were talking about earlier today. You see here, 120106 says that if you don't pay your bill by 15, you should pay a 10% penalty. And if you don't pay by the 25th of the same month, then your services will be discontinued. We have a lot of customers challenging the rates of the city. Frankly, in a separate reading, I'm not sure how entirely accurate it is, but we're pretty behind in our utility rates. We've made several adjustments in our utility readings, roughly about $300,000. I'm not sure how long that projection is made, if that was just this fiscal year or several fiscal years, but we've made several adjustments, and it seems that our readings of our electrical, water, typically our meter reading programs, and our contracted services for utilities, it's not consistent. It's not. This is my first month here, and I could use a lot of direction from the council, at least the changes that they know of and would like to see done in the next few months, so that when we get into the next fiscal year, we have a more accurate projection of what our revenue is going to be. And on top of that, a little bit tied into a future item that we're going to discuss tonight, in the tax rate. In order for us to maintain lower tax rates in our property values, we have to offset in our utilities. We do have a very wide tax base close to our property. A very wide net in our utility accounts compared to our tax revenue and our property taxes. We have about 750 utility customers, and I want to say about 600 and some property owners in the city. So for all these improvements that we're making, it's better to burden the wider net so it's less of a burn on a concentrated audience and applying it spread out. So when we're talking about repaying these loans, it's not just on the taxpayers, it'll be put on the people who don't pay taxes to the city but are still benefiting from the utilities that come from it. Does that make sense? Now that said, is there anything specific that the council has been monitoring, has noticed about our utility system that can use new enhancements or more consideration that the reporting that you'd like to see in the next few months?
So disconnect report. Yes, that last slide you didn't show.
So, right here in the report, utility report, payment plan has folks that should be 16.
Right.
I mean, we only have 16 payment plans.
Seems like it. If that's what our report says, it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
Is that number too high, too low
it's too low
compared to,
To the amount
compared
that's
to,
to the amount that's out.
right, because if you think about it, 16 plus these, another 40, you say, we should have about 50, some, maybe 60 payment plans.
No, on the payment plan, this example that you sign for the payment plan.
Yeah.
And an immediate payment of blank is posted to your account. Each current monthly invoice is paid in full by the 15th of the month. And an additional monthly payment of whatever you're doing to catch that month up.
That's right.
It doesn't mean well, I've got a payment plan of $250 and I'm gonna just keep paying $250 every month. And I think that's what's been happening. I can't prove that, it's just my thought. You don't miss that next bill. You're trying to catch up on that first bill, and that payment would be $82, okay? Plus that next bill.
My bill on that is $27.42. $80 for the extra payment.
It's always a possibility. I'm not sure if cities are required to have a payment plan option. From the last city I came from, there was a moment where it was very strict. We hit a really low point because during COVID, we did not do any kind of disconnections, no kind of penalties. And there's one day city council made a motion to flip the switch, and suddenly everybody next month had to pay back their $1,000 bills because they weren't paying their utility bills for 9 months. The city could do that. What's probably going to happen, which is not happening so often today, are disconnections. There is a suggestion to get back on track and issuing several disconnections. And to not shock council that you hear constituents call you saying, why was I disconnected? I haven't been disconnected in 2 years or ever, my first time. But the city's going to look into the disconnection portion of our ordinances and trying to rehabilitate the community back on track. And we should never really see a 90-day or 120-day past due accounts. And Shelton's right. I mean, this total past due is a full police officer. Is there any comments or input that you guys would like to see revised in our utility program?
So the 120 that's past due, is that the ones right now that currently have the agreement with the city, or is that just throughout that?
I'm not sure.
No, it's not.
There might be a few, but not all.
I have it very beneficial if utility runs on a consistent cycle of bills issued cyclically.
Yeah.
Because they come out really late sometimes, and I get that people know that they're doing 15th of the month, they're not, but it's a mystery number, and you're trying to budget into some people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't know what that mystery number is. Sometimes it makes it difficult for them if they get 3 or 4 days notice, or even a week, when they, in theory, should be having from first to 15th to be able to plan for that.
Right. The mayor and I were just discussing that today and for the past weeks, where it's not just a single person's operation, but it's a multitude of people that get involved. But everybody has responsibilities and expectations.
And then
In
you
their
have
time of the
big-
month.
that big water leak, and they got to put off the bill.
Yeah. And that's why it needs to go back to a system.
But we are working on meters where we won't have people actually have to read the meter.
To get on that.
Straight to.
So the city's trying to transition over to AMI meters. It's gonna be a couple year project, honestly, because it's
Fair.
$500,000 or $600,000 to do both water and electric.
I hear all that, but if you're that person who's sitting there with that $700 bill, and you're getting hammered on every single month, and you don't have enough time to be able to plan for that, and you can't say to somebody, you just have to plan for an $800 bill every month.
No, I agree with you
can't do that.
1,000%.
You can't do that to a citizen who's living paycheck to paycheck.
That's something that
You can't.
So
We
the
just
first
talked
of the
about it
month,
together,
yeah,
yes.
so the
I
first of the month I go into the account and look and see what I have. And then I've got until the 15th to come up with that. I'm not waiting for that paper bill to come in.
I hear you.
So we had a
And
conversation
I'm
earlier with staff.
saying to you that we know there are citizens in our community who don't have computers, who don't have internet access, and that they don't have a choice but to wait for that. And so I'm just advocating for those few folks who
Absolutely.
need their voices to be
We agree.
Absolutely.
That's why we're having this conversation.
Yep.
And I agree. We had an inter-office conversation earlier with a staff member, and we have 9 meter books. Meter books are numbered 1 through 9, and I've been preaching this for 4 years, and I don't know how I'm gonna, without handing them out myself. It's they're numbered for a reason. You don't come in this month and grab and start with book number 7, and then next month you start with book number 1, and then you got 9 additional days in the cycle of book number 7 because you started it the first 1 month and very last the next month. Then you got 9.
Yeah.
You got 5 to 9 days additional
Yeah.
of
So it's
utility use.
trying to get that straight.
Yeah, you're still being charged for the utilities you use, but how do you budget if you got a 39 or 40 day cycle? You know, it's impossible. I mean, so 1000% agree with you.
You know, maybe it won't be a problem because it just comes on back.
Sure.
Take a little mistake.
But meanwhile, if we've got some of those people who are stuck in those 145-day cycles or even a 38-day cycle, that extra 8 days bump their bill makes it so they can afford that. We have to recognize that. We have to do something about that.
Yeah, we agree. And that's why it's come to our attention once again. And I mean, it's kind of like a recurring thing. And whenever I received this the other day, Adrian received it, we kind of started panicking and figuring it out. And Adrian's extremely great about finding fixes to problems. He dives into things pretty deep. I've noticed that in the last 5-6 weeks he's been here. Isn't that long, really?
5 weeks.
5 weeks. And so he's pretty good about things like that. So we've had a couple of discussions already. We'll have those discussions, those hard discussions with staff, and like it's got to be a well-oiled machine. One second, Mr. President. Where every employee is doing their part. And that goes from meter reading to the guys in the field to the office personnel to Mr. Adrian, and then to us as a council. And
Has there been any kind of analysis to those few folks who are behind to see if there are any that are stuck in that gap?
Not in this study.
I just feel for some of them. I honestly have no idea who they are, but I know that there are some of those folks who are living paycheck to paycheck. And we just have to recognize that we live in that kind of community. And then we have to recognize that there are some people whose utility bills give them more anxiety than they need. And that there's something we can do about
And we
it.
understand hardships. We understand.
Absolutely.
I think all of
Those
us,
are the people that we do want to help.
Absolutely.
all of us understand hardships.
Hey, let's fix those habitual abusers. Absolutely.
That's why you
I'm all
have-
about knocking on that door, and let's fix that.
Yeah.
But if we've got something that we need to help, we gotta help.
The city,
I'll knock on that door.
the city understands hardships, and that's why we have an agreement here that they can come in and sit down with the city and come up to and pay their bills in a timely manner. But if we're not holding them to this, if they're not agreeing to this, the bill date's on the 15th, and this is another contract that they signed with the city saying that they're going to pay their bill on time every month. On the 16th, you should have a damn stack of freaking disconnect notices, and the lights should be off. I mean, that's just where we got to get to the point. I mean,
We're not doing people, they were also, who do live on a fixed income, to let them use them get
Totally agree.
and there's plenty of places in the counties, both counties, that will assist. Mr. Tom, thanks for being so patient.
Have you already considered the balanced payment versus the same every month based on the history of the previous year divided by 12? That, in some months, of course, makes the bill higher, but in really high months, it makes it lower. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Like average billing. I
That's
think
what some people, it would help some people.
Starting January, you say last year's what about?
Well, we can't even get what we we have a hard time getting what we do have in place under control. So before we initiate something completely different, I agree with you. It could make some people's bills, if they know that they're paying the same bill and
It's a good plan. I love it. It is a good plan.
yeah.
Is there any other input, council?
But this is, yeah.
Yeah.
We need some input, you know.
Do you have a list of people that provide help for people to come in that are burdened like this?
Yeah,
So we've got a
and most-
list.
And most know, what is it, Caring Place will
Caring
put out,
Place.
they've, done all they're gonna do for the month. I mean, if they, I don't know how many times you can get help from Caring Place.
Depends on your situation.
That's true.
It depends.
Brenda, do we still have the list in the lobby of all the assisting, the places that assist
Yeah,
customers?
we used to.
Opportunities, Hearing Place, there's another place,
But we have that in the law right here.
We should have the list out there. We did at one point. And like Ms. Vicky just said, sometimes those places will run out of funds, and then they'll just notify that, sorry, we're out of funds at the moment.
You can also call 211 and they'll help you, okay? They can do a lot of that, a lot of that.
But I'm just saying, like, look, we obviously work with people, but if they're not paying this, then we just need to disconnect.
I agree.
Because we've done that in the past, and the next day they show up with $1,600 to pay their bill, cash. I mean, it's silly. So there's no reason in heck why we should be at $80,000 in delinquencies when,
We don't have that kind of money.
no, nobody does. And
I pay my bills every month.
some of these are 120 plus days. You got $37,000 of 120 plus days. That's money that we'll probably never see back because those people have probably skipped out of work.
Well, in the next few months, we expect several changes in our utility program.
I would ask,
And
I'm sorry,
we'll see a few amendments in our utility program, and we'll see we might start hearing a little bit about disconnections. Eventually, everybody will be on the same page and have the expectation from the city on how the city's utility system is supposed to operate. And if there's any questions that any constituents reach out to you, feel free to direct it to the city staff and myself. And I'm sure we can make arrangements or provide clarity about our utility system and the rates, our policies in place.
I would just, it won't happen by next meeting in 2 weeks, but by this meeting next month, maybe we have another report.
Yeah.
And we dive into this one more time, and I would expect to see this number quite a bit smaller, or that disconnect number over there quite a bit larger.
Can I ask what we're doing? Are we sending notices on what our intentions are through, through their bill? Like, just let you know, the city has adopted blah, 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 and if you're not gonna pay your bill on time, blah, 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 it's gonna happen. Have we let them know so that they can come in? I haven't said anything like that in mine, that's why I'm
Because we
asking.
send out the bill and we used to send out the personal.
Yeah, something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Columbia automatically sends out a massive letter.
How long
Fundview does what?
And are we still doing that?
Fundview does what?
They automatically send out a past due letter for anybody that pays from the 16th.
So
So if you
Fundview
don't
sends
pay
out,
on
do they send that to
15.
UZO and then UZO sends it out, or,
UCO sends it out,
okay, so you go
but
ahead.
it doesn't do any good.
What do you mean by it doesn't? So whenever they get a notice saying that if you don't pay your bill by a certain time, that certain time comes and they haven't paid it, we don't do anything? Is that what you're saying?
That's one of
So it falls back on us not doing what we need to be doing, because if I get a notice saying you've got 10 days to pay your bill or it will be shut off, I'm gonna call you and go, hey, can I have until the 13th? Can I sign something to come in?
We'll set up controls
Okay,
that
alright.
are trackable. My role in
I'd like
this
to see
whole
that.
project is making sure that all the gears are working.
Right.
And reports come to me, what should the expectation be? And then bringing those reports to council and be able to speak to those.
I'd like to see that.
Okay. Is there any other questions about utilities?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that was another option.
No, actually, just clarity.
All right, thank you. Item number 3, discuss, review, and take any necessary action to recognize the preliminary tax rate to be 0.7855 per $100 for fiscal year 2024-2025.
So that's me again.
You again?
I did a lot of talking. All right. I guess I'm going to start with conclusions on this subject. My recommendation is not to accept a 0.7855 tax rate. My recommendation is that we pursue a 0.7166 tax rate. It's not shown here necessarily. Today and this past weekend and last week, I was working with the county and the tax rates. The no new revenue tax rate presented to the city is 0.7163. It's seen here. Now, in this conversation, it's important that everybody understands what INS and M&O means. INS is your interest in sinking fund or collection, and your taxes, and your M&O is your maintenance and operations. What interest in sinking does is the taxes help pay off the debts of the city. Now, there's a lot of fluidity, what you can say, declare that number to be. If the city wanted to, it could set a very high INS to pay off all the debt that it needs to pay, at least for that fiscal year. This coming fiscal year, we have an expectation to pay $390,000, as we spoke at last meeting. Here, I'm not suggesting that we do that, but last conversation we had INS paying $185,000. Now your M&O is your maintenance and operations. It's your general operations. It pays for part of my salary. It pays for the building to keep the lights on. It pays for all the staff. It pays for the general use of the city. It's not really meant for capital improvements like INS does. But your M&O is restricted by statute to only go 3%. That's why we have a voter approval item and a no new revenue item. Your voter approval is quite literally the ceiling before you have to trigger a petition or an election. Your INS doesn't require that. Now, you can only grow 3% of your M&O, your maintenance and operation. So it's my recommendation that from hearing last council's opinion on the tax rate is to not raise taxes. Now, that's totally to the discussion of council, but I would recommend that we keep a high M&O so that we still have more control of our budget in our INS. So I'm suggesting we reduce our INS to 0.084 per $100 and retain this 0.6323 M&O, since we can only grow 3% every year. And so we keep on growing our M&O and we keep offsetting our INS so that we keep a controlled tax rate. The difference from this fiscal year and next fiscal year will be about $14,000 increase. Part of that is from new improvements, new houses that are now installed in the community, different from last year to now. And partially is improvements in the community that were made that make that complete $14,000. Now, from our last conversation, this puts the city behind about $80,000. Kind of how we had it proposed last meeting. 80%, $80,000 is no shy number, especially for the numbers that we're discussing or the figures that we're looking at. Just because we're reducing it doesn't mean we don't have to pay it back from another fund. My suggestion is that we adopt a lower tax rate burden less of the taxpayer in the community, but then offset the loss of $80,000 to our utility accounts. And so we have several or a reasonable amount of accounts in our ETJ outside of the city limits that pay for utilities but don't pay taxes. So we brought in the burden of improvements in the community into INS to everyone, because if we had raised our INS and lowered our utilities or didn't raise our utilities enough, the homeowner, the property owner in town would be more burdened than the people that live out of town, but everybody enjoys the same benefit. So instead of doing that, we spread that burden. So after working with the county, the tax appraisers, this is the conclusion we reached. Our no new revenue rate with the reduced INS continues to be 0.7163, but our voter approval rate has now significantly reduced to 0.7166. 0.03 of a difference is between your no new revenue rate and your voter approval rate. I would recommend the council accepts the 0.7166 preliminary tax rate. This motion that we have to make tonight is what's going to be published as for the public hearing. It's general consensus from the council of a tax rate. If either of these numbers or range gets approved, we can go ahead and hold the public hearing on the 23rd for both tax rate and budget. So if there's any questions about the tax rate or how this might impact the utility fund, for that.
So we're going with the voter approval.
Yes, this new voter approval rate is what I recommend, but if you want to go with the no new revenue rate, that's fine. It's your community and I respect it. It's not much of a difference now. It's significantly reduced that taxpayer burden, regardless.
Is this an increase from what we had previously, or just?
It's a decrease.
Decrease. But from previous years, and it was from previous discussions with the previous tax years.
It's closer to, I'm sorry?
Right now, we're at
0.75
Right.
per 100. That's what 0.09 is.
So this last column is adopted FY23. Oh, that's the wrong one.
Zero.
That should be 24. I got it.
Yeah, that's what.
So this year we collect about $852,000, or we expected to. We won't be going really up or down. But your last tax bill from the city of Bartlett does reflect counting in the schools and such, but should stay relatively the same. You may pay $10 more. But you won't feel any difference in your city taxes. You will feel a difference in your utility taxes or utility payments. That's the plan. Because we're not deciding on utility rates today, but I would suggest that if we do pursue these options, that we reconsider the utility rates to meet those capital improvements. We'll be getting more detail during the next conversation. Yes.
Well, the preliminary rate we posted at 0.7855. We can't go over that. We can always go underneath it. And it's recommendation after crunching many numbers. This poor guy, he's recommended the alternative voter approval rate. Correct?
That's correct.
So that third column over.
Which really should be this. This is actually the final number of what it agreed.
0.7166 would be the right 0.71.
So it would be What, to adopt the tax rate at, or to not adopt, to set the preliminary tax rate at 0.7166.
What's that, like the INS and the M&O?
The INS becomes 0.084, and then M&O is roughly that 0.6323. I'm sorry?
M&O is off, I'm sorry, 63,
It'd be
63.23-ish. I'll bring it up here.
your debt rate would be this one. And your debt rate,
0843.
yeah, which is different from. Yeah, that's a change.
So we're discussing the motion.
If there's questions or discussion, by all means. Otherwise, I would look for a motion to recognize one as a preliminary tax rate.
You like this one, huh? I'd like to make a motion to recognize the preliminary tax rate to be 0.7166 for fiscal year 2024-2025.
0.7166
Yeah, 0.7166.
per hundred. Ms. Cooper's got a motion on the table to set the tax rate at 0.7166 per hundred, the preliminary rate, right? Jesse, what's your name?
Could we do a roll call on this one? A roll call vote?
On the preliminary,
Yeah, because on the posting, we're going to put the names if we voted yes or no.
Jesse second. Okay, so we'll go around the table and we'll do a roll call. Let me write some names down here. All right, Miss Jackie, you are a yay. Miss Cooper, Jesse, Jones. And Shelton wants to go to the de minimis rate of 116. All right, so the preliminary tax rate that will be turned in for the public hearing will be 0.7166 per hundred. Okay. Carries 5 zeros. Good job. Good job, council. Took us a long time to get to the. We got it. Future agenda item. Tax rate public hearing
And budget public hearing.
and your budget. Sent them back last week.
That's right. And
So, but yeah, as they're changing meters, like for any reason, or putting new meters in, it's all AMI going forward. We haven't done the whole like,
Well, I know, we can kind of these 20 weeks, when we put that, approve all that last year, we might get.
we'll look into it.
yeah, I have to see how many we have in the warehouse. I know we had a pallet delivery.
That's another question, are we having any issues getting?
Vision seems to be pretty responsive. And,
And they're different meters, yeah, I mean, they're still in AMI meters.
that's why all of our projects in Austin are held up because electric. We can't get
Maybe
meters.
we'll buy our glass. They don't have any other options right now. And they're old.
How
We'll do a
about,
Craigslist on who voted.
we had discussed, having the election for the, like margaritas, Winston and margarita.
You thirsty? You want an election? We need an election for Ms. Cooper to have a margarita.
All in favor?
So you want
Well, I'm just
on the
saying,
ballot, you're asking for mixed drink
Yeah.
on the ballot.
Could that be on like that November election?
I don't know if we have time to do it.
Yeah.
Does it have to be
That
petitioned?
has, that would
Okay.
have,
Can we do it on May?
you would have to petition, Maybe council can,
That's right, that's what happened, wasn't it?
When are we getting that apart?
You have to petition, what was it, Jan? You have to petition the citizens. What, do you remember?
I
Is
believe
this something that you're
council
asking?
can,
Let's work on
I know you've asked it before. It's, we can definitely like circle back and look at it and see.
We can, so right now, so we've increased, so just so that the council knows, I'm Jennifer Turner. And we own the Mercantile Just Speakeasy inside. And in the speakeasy, we have a liquor license, and our liquor license is a 14% alcohol license. So we can sell wine-based cocktails, wine and beer. And at the moment, it's doing all right. But our number one request is for liquor. And so margaritas, people just want to sit down and have a margarita. And so we do sell hot dogs, we sell, I don't want to call it traditional bar food, mozzarella, pizzas, potato chips, that kind of stuff. And so you all talked numerous times about what can we do to bring more business to Bartlett. And you want butts in seats, they want to drink a margarita. And so I need to be able to have an increase in my liquor license. I've been to a liquor license twice now, and I'm going to do it a third time. But we need to do the petition process, and we need to be able to.
Yeah, what takes that?
I think it's something that it can't be the council who does the petition. I think it has to be
I have to have your backing in order to do it. So there's an ordinance change. So here's the process, friends. Let's have this conversation. So since prohibition, there has been an ordinance on these books, and I'd have to go back to my files and pull it, but I think it's ordinance 187, if I remember correctly. And that ordinance, it's from the 1920s, and it prohibits on-premise liquor consumption. And so you all need to do an ordinance change first to allow it. Once you all vote here, next week would be great. If you all will make that vote to change that ordinance, then that allows me the right to do the petition. Then I can do the door-to-door petition that says there are enough citizens who are interested in it. Then I can bring you back the petition to say, put it on the ballot. Once you put it on the ballot, the citizens vote for it, then we can.
I would have
so
sworn
city council,
that we've already voted.
let's not engage this is a topic of public interest in amending the ordinance. So I would refrain from anybody jumping into this conversation. We just adjourn the meeting.
Is there any more questions?
It's just future discussion items if one citizen.
Okay, that's.
Later on,
We'll
but
put it on the next.
but let's not
I make
create
a
a.
motion that we adjourn.
Then we'll put this on the next one.
Thank you.
I'll second.
You made a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
All in favor? Oh, never mind. I don't care what y'all say. Meeting is called at 7:14 p.m.
This one, right?
On that one, we can just look at the.
Let's talk to Art, I think, on that one.
Sorry?
I think let's talk to Art on that one.